All right, and I think we're live. What's up, man? 2021. Happy New Year to you. Thanks.
Happy New Year, brother.
Awesome. Thanks for being on the show today. Second podcast, and here we go. We got a lot of great topics to talk about today. Obviously, Jack, great guy, great physique, great mind for fitness. If you guys don't know who Jack is, I will be sure to put his bio in the Spotify, so you guys can go check out his stuff. And I'm sure you're going to see his hashtag all over the place as this goes on the World Wide Web. So maybe just to get us started, Jack, why don't you give us the elevator pitch of your background? Tell us about your education. Tell us about your experiences thus far in the fitness business.
Yeah. Name's Jack. Been training for about 6 years. I went to the University of Minnesota, have a degree in kinesiology there, have a bunch of letters behind my name from different certifications: CSCS, exercise physiologist from ACSM, pain-free performance specialist. That's a new certification John Oosten's rolled out, pretty sweet. Precision nutrition, so some nutrition focus there as well. So I like to cover a lot of different stuff, all the way from nutrition to corrective exercise. And I love getting people strong, man. That is my thing. I love people seeing get them stronger, because the stronger you are, the harder you are to kill. That's my motto. So
I love
yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. That's me. I'm all about the evidence behind things, as you guys will see. I don't do things that evidence doesn't predominantly support. At the same time, I'm all about being in the trenches too. I love blending the theory with the practice and and teasing out those methods in practice. So
yeah, man, that's great. And speaking, just on the point about, you love getting people strong. For those of you who haven't trained with Jack, he is strong as hell himself. And so he puts his money where his mouth is there. I think the first time I met you, we were training at the U, and we spent some time over at Los, which, for the audience here that is not Minneapolis based, great little bodybuilding gym, 2 locations here, actually 3 locations now. They got one in Northeast Minneapolis. Shout out to those guys. Great spot. But Jack is the epitome of strong. The way that he trains is with just a ton of intensity. And so it's again, man, it's great to have you here on the podcast. And I can't wait to dive into some of that evidence-based stuff that you're talking about. But maybe just to get things, rolling here after those intros, let's talk a little bit about you and what your goals are for 2021. And maybe the area I want to focus on just a little bit is more of the business side of personal training, right? At the end of the day, you're running a business. Obviously, you have the physique, you have the strength, you have the knowledge, but we have to bring clients to the table. And so I'd love to get your mindset, your theories on how you recruiting or going after prospecting new clients. What kinds of clients do you see yourself specializing in? Do you have, a small group of people you'd like to work with? Tell us just a little bit about your philosophy there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. First off, I want to say, personal training is my bread and butter. I believe that online training absolutely has its place, and that's actually something I want to focus on more in 2021 myself, is creating more of an online presence. Last year I was running 30 sessions a week of in-person training, and I've ran more than that in the past. So I've done a lot of in-person training. In 2020, obviously changed the game a little bit as far as how we have to approach that whole scenario, right, man? Learning how to train in a mask was a doozy. But at the same time, improvise, adapt, overcome. That's what the military always teaches people. And as trainers, I think that there's no better time to look at your business and learn how to, and decide, how you're going to pivot. So for me, it's going to be, I'm going to bring in some more online presence to my business, increase my presence on social media for sure through quality content. Would love to start a blog. So those are some of the goals around increasing my view to people out there. But as far as my philosophies around training, I think it all comes down to continuing to advance yourself in your education. I do not believe you can be a good trainer unless you know what the heck you're talking about. And I think too many trainers just try to jump into it. And in today's world, where training is a completely different beast, right? If you don't know what you're doing, what you're talking about, people aren't going to want to pay for you. So my number one tenet of being a good trainer is you need to know your shit. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Pardon my French.
No, no.
That's like all the trainers I
we're
talk
not,
to, man.
this is
Raw
18,
uncut Jack.
18 plus podcast. No, I think that's great. I
Yeah.
talked in my previous podcast, if you guys haven't listened to that, with Zach Condon, about, that balance between having that personality that people really gravitate toward as a personal trainer and being able to engage with people versus the book smarts. And really, you have to have both. There's no, you can't just be a bookworm and expect that people are going to gravitate towards you. And it's a really unique balancing act. And it's not an easy one because the game is constantly changing. There's constantly new data and information coming out. It's ever evolving, as you know. And so maybe to that point, how do you stay up on that? Because that's kind of hard.
The thing about fitness, man, is when you go home, you're not done with a 9 to 5, right? My mom was worked a 9 to 5 her whole life. Every time she'd come home, she could watch TV until she fell asleep if she wanted to. That's not how it is in our world, and you do have to stay on top of your stuff, and you have to put a lot of time into it. So for me, it's all about condensing my resources and making them efficient for myself so I can spend time with, my family or working out wherever I need to do. So I'm a huge fan of following quality content creators and picking a few people, not to just confirm what right? That confirmation bias, I think, is a dangerous, slippery slope, but find people who are objective with their fact presentation. So there's a few people on social media, I would recommend. We can talk about that later. But number 2 is research reviews. I'm a huge fan of research reviews. And if you're talking to, trainers out there, what I recommend is finding a few sources that condense a lot of data and information into a very readable format where you can get through quickly and apply it to your clients. Stronger by Science and their mass subscription is my go-to for training. Alan Aragon, I follow his research review. He's been around for, 20 years now. You can backlog all of his on his website. And then examine.com has a pretty good supplement and nutrition one called Nerd that I read monthly as well. So research reviews, man, they're the key.
Yeah. The centralized sources of information, I think, is a lot of the time what people struggle with. There's a lot out there, as you just mentioned. I started off bodybuilding.com. Back in like 2013, when bodybuilding.com was still legit, they were still the number one supplement supplier. All their content was free and unlocked. I did Steve Cook's Big Man on Campus. That was my first training. And you know what? At the time, I loved that resource. And there's I think everybody picks up on their own stuff over time, but that's super valuable. And I definitely want to get those links out to the audience so they can, take a little bit more of a look at it. When you look at your clientele specifically, I know strength is a huge thing for you. You're running 30 sessions a week. Are you really working with a mixed bag of clientele, different age brackets? Are you working with athletes? Give us an understanding of, who is your primary demographic that you're training?
Yeah, absolutely. When I first started, it was really anybody, right? I think it's a lot of times trainers try to niche down a little too early. And while it's important to have a focus so you can gear your learning and your marketing material and all that, you do need to train a variety of people so you can learn who you actually like to work with and who you work with well and who you can get results, because ultimately that's the name of the game, right? So for me, what I have found to be my current niche is people who are looking to take that next step in their fitness journey towards their goals. And I've definitely worked with my fair share of beginners, but I've advanced a little bit beyond that point. So where I like to take people, it's more of a mindset to me. Someone who is ready to dedicate and commit more than what most trainers would ask of their clients. I don't want my clients to just come in one time a week, get a workout in, see you later, right? I'm not a workout giver, I'm a trainer. So what I want to do is I want to see you the recommended number of times that I believe and research shows will get you the best results possible. You stick to the plan the days I'm not there. And it's not always like a meal plan type situation either, but it's a mentality. People are willing to take that next step and they're dedicated. And for most of the time, that is anywhere in that, 25 to 50-year-old range, males and females. I train a ton of both. For pregnant clients, for example, like I said, it comes out of people with the mentality and who want to get strong. It's like, I will get you strong. And that's who I like to work with the most.
Yeah. So that's great. I love that you have somewhat of an equal distribution of
Mhm.
women and men clientele. Um, let's talk about, and I wasn't planning on talking about this, but it's an opportune moment to talk about strength in women. And I
Mhm.
think that sometimes there can be a misconception that training heavy or training for strength for women specifically can lead to bulkiness and that going down a route with your physique as a woman that maybe you're not very interested in. Can you speak to that myth and kind of how, from a science perspective, that the A, that doesn't stand true, and B, how you kind of work with your clients from a mentality perspective?
Absolutely. I do get a ton of women who, when I meet the first time, they are afraid of getting a little bit too muscular through strength training. And I could cite the research all day long, but it basically comes down to women don't have as high of a propensity to build muscle mass as males. Testosterone being the primary driver of that, you just will not get as large as fast. And there's a lot of stuff that goes into actually building that freaky level of muscle mass. I have never seen anyone actually accidentally get too big, right? Because it's consistent sleep, it's perfect food, it's training very hard for months and months and months on end. So you will not accidentally get too big. If anything, it's only going to enhance your quality of life. For women, especially, osteoporosis as you age is a very real thing, and strength training has been one of the only things shown to reverse that, in fact. So by strength training with adequate nutrition, you can not only prepare yourself for the tasks you have right now, but in 20, 30 years as well. It is the ultimate form of exercise for fat loss, for muscle gain, and strength and all that kind of good stuff. So,
Yeah,
I think women need to do more of it, not less of it.
that's a great point. I also think that plays nicely into this discussion around fitness training, balance versus cardio, right? And we have different kinds of cardio. We can talk about lifts and hit and all different kinds of cardio, but um, I've always told my friend, and I'm not a personal trainer. I'm somebody that's trained for the last 8 years of my life. I have experienced trial by fire. That like you should a always train before you do cardio. Some people prefer to do their cardio early morning, fasted, whatever it may be. But I want to reserve all of my energy for my training session, and then I want to do my cardio after. Just
Yep.
just simply because I don't think my cardio is going to burn fat, because it's not. It's gonna chew up calories, right? And so my I'm going to either be in a deficit at the end of the day because of the cardio I did, or I'm going to be in a surplus.
Mhm.
Um, do you agree with that philosophy of prioritizing the training, having the cardio second, and especially for women, is that the process that you would take?
Yeah. So they've done a lot of research on how strength training affects males versus females and their lifespan. And females have a significantly greater response to strength training as far as the improvement of their lifespan than males. So males, because of our higher level of testosterone, we tend to have higher levels of grip strength, right? And when scientists correlate grip strength with lifespan, which has been shown to be pretty correlated long term, women have a significantly greater increase in their grip strength than males. And that leads to then a greater increase in their lifespan. So for females, anything you can do to focus on that strength improvement will directly impact you greater than if I was to do it for my lifespan, right? So I think females do get a bigger benefit out of strength training than even males, because naturally we are designed to have more of that testosterone and less brittle bones and things like that. So,
Wow,
yeah.
that's crazy. Just to
Isn't
think
that
about
cool?
I never heard of that study, but the idea
Yep.
of just grip strength as the indicator for that is
Hmm.
super interesting. Um,
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah,
thanks.
and when it comes, I focus a lot of my clients with performance, right? I say beat the logbook, which means come in and beat what you did last time by even one rep. That is a very linear way to improve strength over time. And anything that impacts that will therefore negatively impact your results, right? In that strength department. So cardio beforehand, sucking energy reserves, a lot of times mental focus and more than anything else will impact your performance negatively, and then you get less results from that strength training. So that's why I advocate for strength first, cardio second.
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk briefly about kind of the foundation of fitness, right? I mean, we're talking about getting into the gym, having high intensity, having high energy, reserving mental capacity. That all falls back to one really, really important topic of nutrition, right?
Mhm.
And getting it done in the kitchen. There's always this debate of like are abs made in the gym or the abs made in the kitchen? Well, abs are revealed in the kitchen, abs are made in the gym. That's the way
Yeah.
I've always looked at it. But another really big thing, just sticking to the topic of nutrition that's happening right now, we're January 8th, 2021 is New Year's resolutions and fad diets, right? People are thinking about, man, I really need to lose an extra couple pounds. Or they're thinking about and researching keto, right? No, cutting out carbs completely, and what is that going to do for my body and weight loss? And there's intermittent fasting, and there's lots of fad diets. And so maybe you could just speak to some of the more popular fad diets that you speak to with your clients, and kind of how you advise them around, a fad diet and a training schedule, and
Yeah.
how they mix and how they blend.
Absolutely. One article I always point people to, it's actually very reader friendly, is the ISSN position stand on diets and body composition. Definitely, it's not an older article. At this point, it's a few years old. And what that article basically references is all these different fad diets and do they work better than any other fad diets? And the conclusive result at this point in the literature is that fad diets are no better than just a standard calorie deficit for losing fat, right? And so when it comes to fad diets, I mean, there's keto, yeah, it may help with epilepsy, but those are different circumstances. We're just talking Joe Schmo or Jill trying to lose some weight come New Year's. Fad diets, it all comes down to how's it going to impact your life and what does your schedule look like and your preferences look like. So when I'm talking to a client, what I like to dive in first is basically what does their day look like? And then what do they enjoy doing? Because ultimately, if you enjoy doing it, you're more likely to stick to it, right? So if they enjoy eating keto because it tastes really good to them, let's do keto. I maybe over time try to definitely work in a few more carbs there because there's a lot of benefit with carbs and performance and whatnot. But remember, no one fad diet is better than another fad diet or a standard diet for losing fat. And I think if you start there and then tweak based on preferences, you have an ultimately more successful program for somebody.
Yeah, I've always been a huge proponent of the best diet is the one that you can adhere to,
100%.
right? It's the one that you can stay consistent with. And I've seen, people go, keto and lose weight, really significant amounts of
Yep.
weight. The problem with keto is that I don't know if it's sustainable long term.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what the long term consequences of keto and being in a state of ketosis has on your health.
Mm-hmm.
And as somebody who I would never consider doing keto because I need the carbs to train and I need the energy and just frankly I like carbs too much. So there's those elements of it. Intermittent fasting is a really, really interesting one.
Yeah.
And it's something that I've dabbled with a little bit and not had a lot of success with because I feel like my days are so variable. Like some days I'm just like, I feel like I've fasted 10 hours and I literally just ate an hour ago. And there's some days where I feel like I can go all day and not eat.
Mm-hmm.
And so obviously you've talked to your clients about keto, but what about intermittent fasting? Is your philosophy kind of the same? I'd be curious to know.
Yeah, with intermittent fasting, so all these diets have their drawbacks and their benefits. With intermittent fasting, the biggest issue I see is that when you try to lose weight, it helps you maybe control calories a little bit, which is really the biggest benefit of all these fad diets. Do they help you control the amount of calories? Like keto, you slice out a whole food group. Yeah, you're going to lose a little bit of weight, right? Same, intermittent fasting, you take out a massive meal. Yeah, you might lose a little bit of weight. But like I said, my biggest philosophy is if I can get you strong and performing well, that's a good indicator of long-term results, right? And that's sustainable by getting stronger. I don't want people to be getting weaker while they're training with me. And in intermittent fasting, I've seen that honestly happens a lot. Now, when I do train nurses and doctors and people who have crazy schedules where they don't have time to eat, intermittent fasting can be a very viable option for them. But intermittent fasting doesn't mean it has to be a 16-8 or a whatever spread of hours, right? It can be manipulated to what works for you. There's no magic to the fast as far as fat burn goes, right? It's all about the calorie control. So if you're trying to diet, it's okay. It's not maybe the best for performance, especially if you're trying to train in the morning, you're eating later in the day. But if it goes to lose weight, it can work. I just don't advocate for it because I like spreading my clients' meals throughout the day so they have sustained energy to help with work production, all kinds of stuff like that.
Yeah, there's that whole, there's the performance side of eating and nutrition, but there's the whole other side of how does it make you feel, right? And I hear from countless people who do intermittent fasting is they're like, I do it because I am laser focused from during my fast for whatever reason. And I'm sure there's science behind that, and people who are invested in intermittent fasting as a diet should certainly do a lot of research on that. And, they're in the weeds on it. But I know a lot of people that do it just based on the way that it makes them feel. And they love that clarity. They love feeling light. They love waking up and feeling tight because they haven't had, they've been in a fast, right? So there's that whole other side of it. And I totally, get that. Transitioning just a little bit into another really, I think, important topic that gets coupled with nutrition is supplementation. Maybe the most interesting, but one of the more important topics in fitness. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and there's also a lot of great information out there. Maybe just to drum this down, we could talk about this for hours. We could do multiple podcasts just on supplementation. If you were going to choose the top 3 supplements that you were either to tell a client to take or that you were going to take yourself, what would those 3 supplements be? And be and why?
Yeah, I think it comes down a lot to goal. With basically everything. I hate saying it depends. I think that's an overused answer to things, right?
That's all good.
So I like to narrow down
goals.
Right? It does depend. I should make a shirt. It depends, right? It just
I'd buy
it. My focus being performance and muscle gain because, and I've said this before, but if I can get you kind of think of like an athlete, they eat a lot, they train a lot, they look good, they have a lot of energy, right? So that's kind of what I try to drive my clients is to this like abundance. So anyway, performance, muscle gain, etc. Number 1 is creatine. That thing has been studied to death. If at this point you're not taking creatine and you want to grow muscle and get stronger, you are completely missing the boat. You don't need to load it, right? You can, but you don't have to. You just might end up pooping your pants a lot. But
seriously, though, that's from firsthand experience. You don't need to load creatine. Well, and before we go any further on creatine, explain. I'd love for you to just decipher quick creatine monohydrate and creatine hydrochloride, HCl and mono.
And I'm just right now the preponderance of research says all other forms of creatine are moot / maybe even inferior to creatine monohydrate. It's just basically the form of creatine, and creatine monohydrate. It's not only the cheapest, but it's the one that's been the most studied and the most shown to work consistently. So it's like 10 cents a scoop, 5 grams. A lot of people actually take it before a workout. Here's a little nugget. A lot of people take creatine before a workout because of its proposed benefits on helping with muscular contractions and strength. But there's actually a possible mechanism confliction with caffeine. So you may not get the most out of your creatine. So you want to get the most out of your creatine, taking it on maybe the other side of the workout or even before bed could give you some better results long term. So 5 grams, after a workout is what I recommend to all my clients of just monohydrate.
So, all the caffeine supplements out there that are, caffeine, beta alanine, creatine combined, they're just, it sounds like a convenience factor, but really you're paying for more than you're getting.
Right. Yeah. It's not like it's wrong or it's going to harm you. You get a little something from it, right? That's been studied. It's just, I like to maximize the benefit if it's a very easy change. It's not going to create a lot of stress on my clients. I try to do it. And so taking the creatine after the workout, 5 grams with the protein shake is going to be just as easy as taking it in a pre-workout supplement, right? So
yeah, and you can get it unflavored. That's what I, it's not what I do right now. Actually, I take mine pre-workout. I mix it with my caffeine, just like I shouldn't be doing. So noted, and move that to my post-workout shake.
Smart. Yeah, man. If you're a bigger guy, you can maybe get away with 10 grams a day, and it's like 5 and 5, right? But for most people, baseline is 5. Just take it after a workout. So, if you get a pre-workout with it, a lot of times they don't have a full 5 grams in there anyway. So you get like a little bit, and then you can take a full 5 grams or the rest of the grams after the workout.
Got it.
So,
all right.
And then
next, number 2.
Yeah, number two is going to be caffeine, right? It's maybe not number two in my total list, but it's number 2 of 3. It's amazing for performance enhancements. Basically, it blocks certain receptors such that you can have increased workout performance, right? And increased endurance. Your brain basically doesn't sense, and your muscles don't sense fatigue as quickly when you're using caffeine. And as far as amounts, it can give you a kilogram recommendation, but anywhere from 200 to 400 milligrams before a workout. If you want, for strength training, a little bit on the higher end. For endurance performance, you can be a little more in that 100 to 200 milligram range. But a nugget with that one is going to be taking L-theanine with it, which can help decrease the negative effects of caffeine but still keeping that stimulant effect, right? So it won't depress the positive effects, but it will take down some of the negative effects of caffeine, that jitteriness. So taking, anywhere from 100 to 300 milligrams with your caffeine pre-workout can help enhance your focus and your exercise performance.
Yeah. I've been a pre-workout caffeine guy for probably the last 5 years. And I think there's a lot of good pre-workouts out there, and I think that there's some bad ones. Are you aware of any data around the long-term side effects of, call it high? I mean, that's not even high dose. I mean, if you do any research on high dose caffeine intake, we're talking north of 500 milligrams a day, which is considered high dose. So 200 to 300. I mean, that sounds like a lot. If you drink a premium cup of coffee, what are you, 75, maybe?
Yeah.
Maybe even a little bit less potentially. So,
right.
Are you aware of any long-term consequences of, 200-300 milligrams, daily, consistently over years on the body or the organs?
You definitely will develop a tolerance to it. That's really the most negative thing. Obviously, very, very high doses have all kinds of other potential issues. Basically that tolerance is going to go away over time, and it won't have quite the same effect. So what I recommend is either you can cycle on and off caffeine, or maybe you just take it before the most important lifts that week. Or maybe that's when I don't like to double scoop things, but you add caffeine on top. Long-term tolerance issues is going to probably be the most obvious one. And you just won't get the same benefit from it.
Yeah, that's for sure. I was using GAT as my pre-workout before COVID, and once COVID hit, I went off cold turkey, and I was off caffeine specifically for probably a good month and a half, and then I just went back to a lighter, 50 milligram, 100 milligram. I could bump it up if I needed to, and I'm getting the same kind of feel from those workouts with the lower dose than I was even on my, my higher dose caffeine. So tolerance is definitely.
Whenever I'm consulting with a client, the first time I talk to them about their caffeine intake, I give them a question: do you need it, or is it something that is positively adding to your day? Right? Like if you wake up and you cannot function without caffeine, or you cannot train without caffeine, you probably need to work on that. If it's something that's enhancing your day, or you enjoy drinking a cup of coffee in the morning, go ahead and do that, and keep it minimum. That way, if you take some for your training, which I have most of my clients do, especially before something like a leg day, you'll continue to get benefits from it over time, and that's a little more positive.
Great. Oh, that's perfect. All right, man. Number 3. What's your third best supplement?
Number 3 is a unique one, right? I could go protein, right, and hashtag that, and everyone will watch it. But I think protein food, honestly, protein powder should be stable in everyone's diet if they can afford it. It's actually pretty cheap. Number 3 is gonna be nitrates, right? So dietary nitrates, and they are really fascinating in their effect on blood flow, cardiovascular health, aerobic endurance, and just overall workout performance. Essentially, what they do is these nitrates that you get from things like leafy green vegetables and beetroot. I take beetroot powder before a workout. They get turned into nitrites, and the nitrite helps increase the production of nitric oxide, which helps vasodilate those blood vessels and transport nutrients, which can help facilitate recovery. So nitrates, I think, is a sneaky good supplement that is in my upper tier of evidence to support it as far as performance and everything goes.
Wow. I would not have guessed that. Yeah, and I think the normal when you talk about nitrous oxide, I think there's a couple brands that have BPI's done a nice job. Maybe I think it's BPI. There's like there's a like a pre that's NO Explode,
Oh,
and
oh,
and
BSN.
I
Oh,
BSN. Yeah,
that
thank
will
you.
make you explode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're out there taking that in 2 scoops. Good
I've never
workout.
taken it, but I think when you hear nitric, that's what I instantly think about those guys. So props to them on their brand marketing because they
Absolutely.
got that nailed in. But it sounds like can you just buy this beetroot powder? I mean, you go to any vitamin shop, you
Mhm.
ask her, hey, I want to I want to get a nitrate supplement.
Yep.
Where is that guy at GNC going to lead you? Like, what are our sources?
Yeah, as far as brands, I mean, there's all kinds of them. It's actually one of the supplements that's more commonly like a health brand type supplement. So if you just even Amazon search beetroot juice powder, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I need to look up what brand mine is. But 10 grams is what I take before. Oh, you Googling it?
Hell yeah, I'm gonna Google it.
Nice. 10 grams is what I take before workouts. And then I actually also take some in the morning as well. I personally, blood pressure is a little bit higher and it helps decrease blood pressure. So there's a lot of really beneficial cardiovascular effects of nitrates as well.
Yeah, here we go, right here. Amazon's Choice
Yep.
beetroot capsules, 1,200
Yeah,
milligrams per serving.
I would recommend the powder. Sometimes with the capsules,
Okay,
you gotta take way too many of them.
so the powder here, yeah, they're on 21 bucks, 12 bucks. Looks
Mm-hmm.
like there's a lot of different options here. So you heard it here, folks. Beetroot powder pre-workout.
Beetroot powder, add it to your. It's cheap. It's so good for you. Like I said, it's not just like one of those. It may work. I'm gonna throw a bunch of potential benefits at it. It's actually been backed by quite a bit of literature. 6.4 milligrams to 12.6 milligrams per kilogram of body weight. So for me, it's about 640 milligrams on the lower end of actual nitrates. So
Wow,
yeah,
super
look that
cool.
up. Oh, here's
Great
a
piece
cool
of
tidbit.
advice.
Yeah, here's a cool tidbit on nitrates too. You guys want to maximize it. Antibacterial mouthwash. The bacteria in your mouth help stimulate that production of the nitric oxide down the chain. You need to limit the amount of antibacterial mouthwash you use. If you're using nitrates, you want to maximize them. So if you're going to use it as far away from your nitrate intake as possible.
Interesting.
Yeah, isn't that kind of interesting?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're gonna save a lot. You're gonna
Yeah,
save a lot
right.
of money. So
Yeah,
yeah, don't go take your Listerine and then
exactly.
combine it with beetroots. Noted.
Yep.
All right, I know I said three, but I want you to talk about protein because
Yeah.
protein is such a huge topic for people. Am I taking a whey? Am I taking an isolate? Am I taking a casein? Like there's a lot of different options out there. So maybe just spend a couple minutes on protein and your
Absolutely.
thoughts there.
Like I said, I don't consider protein a supplement because it is such a staple for all my clients. Myself personally, I do 8 scoops of whey a day just because when I'm eating 6,500 calories, it's the only way I can get enough protein in. So yeah, I think protein is amazing. As far as the source of it, I advocate for whey and more animal-based proteins just in general. They have a more complete amino acid profile. I'm not saying you can't get them from vegan sources, but a basic whey, if your stomach can handle it, whey isolate would be a good way to go. And most people can tolerate that. If you can't tolerate that, a hydrolysate or something like a ISO 100 from Dimetized Nutrition, love that stuff. That would be a good way to go as well. Around a workout on either side works great, really anytime throughout the day. One thing I tell my clients is you can still take protein powder on a non-workout day. Right? A lot of people say, I take my protein shake on the workout day. Well, what about the non-workout day? You're probably lacking protein as well. So if you have any gaps in your diet, it's an incredibly easy, relatively cheap and efficient way to meet your needs.
Got it.
Yeah.
All right. Before we transition, I want to talk about I guess is it a truth or a myth? We talk about the post workout window for the protein shake, right?
Yeah.
Is that true or is that just like not a thing?
Yeah, it's not a thing, man. It's all comes down to basically when you ate last, right? You really have a 3 to 5 hour max window to eat serving of protein that stimulates your muscle protein synthesis, which is that rebuilding and growth of muscle, right? So if you eat an hour before a workout, you work out for an hour, you have an hour or so before you can eat again. So a lot of people try to slam it right after a workout. And the research that shows that to be beneficial, they didn't necessarily eat anything before a workout, or they weren't at least measuring that as part of the study. So as long as you eat in a half hour to 2 hours before a workout, you have a little time after your workout before you need to eat some more.
Got it. Cool. Thanks. Thanks for that. That's a great topic. I think that's one that a lot of people are going to find value in.
Yeah.
All right, let's pivot. Let's get into some training a little bit. So I'm thinking about the audience that we have listening here, talking about training splits, and specifically training splits. You know, we got the bro split, we got push pull legs, we got all these different kinds of splits. I mean, we, again, just like a lot of the other topics, we can talk about this for a while. If I'm an individual who in 2021 wants to get strong and put on size, and I don't know if you correlate those two together. I do. I think a stronger muscle is a bigger muscle. I've always had that mentality. What splits are you using for your, you know, whether that be male or female clientele for putting on size and getting strong in 2021?
Great question. If we're talking about maximizing muscle growth, it's going to come down to making sure your split allows for those muscles to be trained at least twice a week. It doesn't need to be much more than twice a week. 3 maybe have a tiny bit more benefit, not much. So whatever your schedule allows. So this is where I always start with my clients is how many times a week can you train? If you can only train 3 times a week, I'm not going to have you on a chest and then a back and then an arm bro split, because you're only gonna hit that muscle once a week if every other 2 weeks, right? And if you miss a day, you're screwed. So it comes down to how can you hit that frequency of at least twice a week? And for most people, anytime above 3 times a week, it's going to be something like an upper lower or a push pull type split. And I think people do not maximize their results from full body and upper lower splits nearly to the level they need to before they advance, right? Only very elite level bodybuilders even consider a bro split. Most of them still run something like a push pull legs. And a lot of guys will say, I'm gonna hop right to a push pull leg split. And I would say hit an upper lower first, right? Because we're talking to people maybe going to the gym 4 times a week or so, maybe even 5, upper lower. And maybe that 5th day would be something you want to prioritize more. So upper lower off, upper lower. And then if you want more biceps, hit that upper. If you want more legs, go lower, upper, lower.
Yeah. So let's break that down just a little bit, because I think the questions that people are probably thinking about in their heads, like, okay, if I do an upper lower, and I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week. So I'm going to do my upper, then I'm going to do my lower, and then I'm going to off. Then I'm going to do my upper and my lower, and then I'm going to off, and I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
How are you breaking down those upper lower days in which muscle groups, right? So, I'm going to shut up. I'll let you talk.
This is going to be great. We can talk about this forever. When it comes to, and I'll start with upper body days. Obviously, like I said, goal is twice a week training for each muscle group. So if you take what you may have done and just chest 1 time a week, no, I think a lot of people do way too much training. I'm going to say that right off the bat. You need to get stronger. You need to do less work, but harder work. But let's say they do 2 chest motions 1 time a week. Take each of those chest motions, split it up into 2. A lot of people, when they add frequency to the routine, they end up doubling their work because they just copy that day. And that's not how you should do it, because remember, it's the total volume over a week. And now you're training twice, you can do half amount of work in each session and see results. So if we're designing an upper lower split for upper body, I recommend it's somewhat muscle, somewhat movement pattern based, right? So I think some sort of a chest motion, which is most likely a horizontal or some sort of an incline type press. Then I'll do some sort of a row motion, right? Horizontal, working more the mid back. And then I'll do something for the chest, upper chest, maybe shoulders, like an overhead press or a high incline type press. Then some sort of a vertical pull down, or, if we want to get really advanced mechanics, a lat motion, which is sometimes a little more like a high to low type deal. So like something for the lats maybe, right? Something more overhead. And then I'll move into maybe some shoulder work, like some side delts, rear delts, supersetted maybe for time efficiency. And then that's it for me personally. I train really effing hard and I get blasted after 6 exercises. For some people can handle a little bit more, then we put like some bicep or tricep exercise at the end of that.
Yeah. What about like set and rep ranges, right? And again, with the focus of getting strong and getting big, and if we're doing an upper lower, maybe we're taking 5-6 exercises. What are our rep and set ranges ideally?
Great question, man. Like you said, a bigger muscle is a stronger muscle. We know that. So my goal is performance based, and you can get stronger, like significantly stronger, with as little as 1 set per exercise, right? I do 2 sets per exercise because it allows for me this, I call it top set mentality, where you have your top set, something in that 6 to 10 range, maybe 8 to 12 if you're just starting out and you don't know that number. And then a second, I call it a back off set. And actually, I just kind of made a post about this recently, but that second set, which is a little bit higher rep range and a little bit lower weight. And that is maybe a 12 to 15, or it's just a rep range that is higher than what I did on set 1, right? And what that allows for is that top set where you're really pushing that weight, that max load, and you're trying to beat that logbook every single week by even 1 rep. That's progress. And then the second set allows you to train that different rep range, which has benefits as far as hypertrophy is concerned, because you're taking that muscle through a couple of different rep ranges, and still take that one to failure as well. But a lot of guys, they warm up way too much. 2 sets on compound exercise. If you're doing more than that, I believe you're not training hard enough.
Wow, that's really interesting philosophy. Yeah. I mean, I don't think I've ever trained a 2-set philosophy. I think more often than not, I'd say 75% of the time I'm training 4. Yep. And I'm doing a 4x8 or a 4x10, whatever it may be. And then maybe for a burnout set, I'm doing 3, but never 2, which leads me to believe that, and sometimes I'm coming off my 4 sets and I still got stuff in the tank. And what that should mean is we're not, from your perspective, you're not going even close to hard enough on those 2 sets. Plus, you mentioned something really important there, which is compound exercise, right? Mm-hmm. That's a squat. You're recruiting a lot more from a compound exercise than you would be, let's say, an accessory motion.
Right. Yeah, and a lot of this comes from the mentality of do less and master less before you add more, right? If we're talking maximizing strength and hypertrophy, like I said, they're somewhat correlated up to a very high level. I think like the biggest mistake is warming up too much. So I see 4 sets of 10 on a routine. I say, which one of those sets are you tracking? Which one is the progressive set? A lot of guys will do bench press, 135 for 20 reps, and then they'll do 185 for 10, 225 for 6. And they're like, man, Jack, I can't get past 275. And I say, stop warming up so damn much, right? You're fatiguing yourself. So I recommend 2 to 3. And when you get really strong, there'll be more, but 2 to 3 warm-up sets. And I call them feeler sets because I want you more so feeling how that exercise is versus just creating a ton of blood flow and fatigue. So, maybe 50% of your working weight for 6 reps, 75% of your working weight for 3 to 4. If you're going for a new weight, maybe like a rep or 2 at that close weight, and then you're going at it. And that is set 1 of 2. I don't count the warm-up sets as sets. So in all my programs, if I write 2 by 6 to 10 and 8 to 12, that is set 1, is that work and set, that top set. And I guarantee you can take that one to failure, you will not want to do 4 sets. You won't. Anyone that doesn't believe that, come train with me. I'll show you.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. Sometimes it takes somebody barking behind you and really getting you through that set to grow. You might be the most motivated person in the world. I'd like to think that I'm a motivated guy. I'm training, frequently right now, just because I got time on my hands, but nothing like a workout. I remember when I trained with you at Los, this was a great side story. And then we'll get into our last topic, which I'm really excited about. And I know you are too, but I was training with Jack at Los in Minneapolis, and we went in and we trained legs, and there's 3 of us there, 4 of us there, 4 guys, testosterone's flowing. And, we were putting up some big numbers. We were doing some big volume. Yeah. I got sick the next day. I literally got a cold that I fought for a week. And I think that's the hardest I've ever trained. And because I trained so hard that my immune system kind of shut down and got compromised a little bit.
Yep.
And I was sore, dude. I kid you not, I couldn't sit. I couldn't do anything. But I'll tell you what, one of the best sessions I've ever had.
Absolutely, dude. Absolutely.
So yeah, sometimes
master Mormon. Right?
Yeah, sometimes you just need somebody there kind of pushing you.
Yeah.
And
I'm excited. We got it. When you come on over to my spot, dude, we'll get after it. I'll show you that's like the the mindset, my mindset, this is kind of my mindset for 2020, but just the motto of my gym is PR or ER, right? You come in and you set that record, you beat that logbook or you die trying,
Yeah.
right? And
PRER. I love
ER,
it.
ER, and also weak things break. Louis Simmons.
We
Second
things
favorite quote.
break. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love all of it. All right, last topic here. Then we'll sign off. I want to be thoughtful of people's time and not go too far over an hour. Um, if you guys don't follow Jack on Instagram, you should. Number one. Number two, he has what I would call the most elaborate home gym I have ever seen. He's got his entire garage, brand new house, beautiful home, by the way,
Thanks, man.
completely decked out with all his upper body stuff. And then, of course, he's got his basement gym, the dungeon, with all his leg stuff in there.
Yes, sir.
You probably know fitness equipment better than anybody I know, just based on the amount of equipment you've bought and moved and put together and assembled. A topic that's not talked about a lot is the future of fitness equipment. I see a lot of Nautilus equipment in your basement and in your garage. Maybe you could speak to where you see fitness equipment going in the next 5, 10, 15 years. Where's the advancement coming from? And how does that industry continue to grow and adapt?
Awesome question, man. Number one is with COVID, we've seen a proliferation and just an explosion of home gyms, right? And a lot of people, it's the racks, it's the dumbbells, and that's all great. So the future of just equipment in general is going to be geared towards the home gym user. We've already seen a lot of that as things have evolved, right? A lot of companies are pivoting a little bit. They're coming out with near commercial grade equipment for home gym users, different machines that we weren't necessarily seeing before. So absolutely a transition towards more home gym geared stuff as some of these big gyms are shutting down, unfortunately. That's point number one. But my second point, I love driving this home, people, is new isn't always better either. I see a lot of equipment coming out that they're trying to just get this bulk order of equipment for cheap to put in a big gym, and the mechanics on it suck, right? Equipment is more than just, I have a chest press. Is that chest press going to match what your body actually does during that motion? So the brands ultimately that sell that bulk style, I think will continue to fade and become less prevalent in gyms. And the gyms that have the higher quality stuff, like the Prime Fitnesses of the world, in my case, I have a lot of old Nautilus, which is really high quality stuff. They will continue to expand. And mechanics in today's training world is more important than it's ever been. We have more knowledge around how the body works. So a lot of brands are starting to transition towards, like, are we matching the strength curve and the resistance curve of the muscles, things like that.
Yeah, just to throw in a little example. I mean, I'm sure everybody listening to this podcast has gotten on to a piece of equipment and went to press or went to pull and just said, like, nah, like
Right.
there's something not right here. And then you, like, for example, it happens to me all the time on shoulder press machines. And so what I end up doing is I end up flipping around. I'll face the pad where my back usually is. And I feel much more advantageous from that position. And that's exactly what you're trying to get at here, is
100%.
matching the mechanics of the human body. And if you're working with a piece of equipment where you don't have the opportunity to adjust and kind of fit it to your own style, well, maybe that's not the highest caliber piece of equipment.
100%. Yep. Adjustable, high quality, near commercial grade stuff for home gyms, man. That's going to be where the money is really being made in 10 years. And I'm excited. I wish I'd have been an engineer. I could be making some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Who knows,
Yeah, who knows, man.
Yeah,
I love, you brought up Prime Fitness. I love their stuff. I think their stuff is great. So, well, Jack,
I have a lot of Strive in my house, man. When you come on over, it's
dude,
the predecessor to Prime. Prime bought their patents, so I'll let you try all of it.
Dude, I'm excited for that. I'm sure the audience is going to get a YouTube video out of that. I think it'll be awesome. I'd love to get some of the other guys over too, and maybe once COVID winds down, we can do something fun. So, well, we've gone a lot of topics today. Want to thank you for your time. This has been super awesome. Again, guys, if you don't follow Jack on Instagram, social media, check him out. He's got great stuff, great physique, great mind and knowledge for fitness. So really appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you, sir. It's a ton of fun, man. I hope to do it again sometime.
Yeah. Yep. Me too, man. All right, guys. Signing off. Thank you all for listening.
Bye.
See ya.